It makes you feel better.
My excuse was I was hungover. I was telling
She needed to
Well, good evening, everybody. You've all been warned about guest musical appearance, and I hate to inform everybody I am not the guest musical performance. I charge a little bit more than we had in the budget for that.
Maybe next year.
But maybe next year.
dream big.
My name is Jake Spellisy. I'm joined up here by MJ Okada, and we're the founding members, along with Sean Hanna and John Webster of Project Aviator. This is our third year doing this. I know you've been thanked a lot already, but truly we do want to thank you. This is our core group of folks that continue to come out and pour their hearts into us and support us. It really does mean a lot to us to continue to see this organization grow and to continue to see this event grow. And we only hope for greater things in the future to continue and your continued support. So truly, thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. We really appreciate it. We started this organization just over 5 years ago as a scholarship fund. And that's one of the main things we do, obviously, is provide scholarships to up-and-coming aviators pursuing careers in professional aviation. And the other facet to it, you know, when we started it, all right, cool, we got this scholarship fund. Now, what are we going to do? No one knows who we are, and we branched into mentorship. And that has become one of the largest portions of our entire organization. And it is fantastic to go around and go to all these conferences and continue to meet our mentees and see them, develop in their career paths and reach their dream goals and come to us and thank us for the support that we've given them. It really does give us a really warm, fuzzy feeling in our chest. But I will say that the biggest thing I've noticed with the mentorship is that mentorship comes in many different facets. It doesn't always just involve a one-on-one, conversation with a mentor, even though those are fantastic. That's what we do. But what I've discovered throughout our journey in this organization is that mentorship comes in just being a friend to somebody, not providing it directly, unsolicited advice from time to time. That sounds a lot better, thank you. Providing the advice, uninhibited access to pilots, things that we never had going through our careers and our developing. I think all of us that are pilots here maybe would have made different choices along our careers. I'm very happy with where we've ended up. I could probably say the same for you. We've gotten very lucky, and it feels great to give back to the community that helped kind of develop us into who we are today. But I think everybody would make different choices, and that's what we provide, is that ability to bounce those questions off of people out there, unbiased, uninhibited advice, and these student pilots can best go out there and hopefully be as lucky as we've gotten in our careers. So mentorship comes, like I said, in many different facets. And I think our guest speaker today, whether he knows it or not, opens up our industry to people that maybe never even considered or thought about aviation, and really shows a behind the scenes look into what we do, and hopefully inspires many other pilots in the future, or many future pilots, to pursue our career in aviation.
So with that being said, tonight we're excited to introduce our guest speaker, Captain Paul Holte. He's a Boeing 757, 767 captain out of Newark, New Jersey with United Airlines. And his career's taken him around the world, so we're excited to hear from him. Many of you also know Paul through his popular social media platform, MyLayoverLife, where he shares a behind-the-scenes look at the aviation industry, travel, and unique experiences that he's gotten to see and that he's willing to share with many of us. Throughout his aviation content, he has inspired and educated aviation enthusiasts and aspiring pilots alike, much like myself and a lot of people in this area today. Paul's passion for aviation, mentorship, and connecting people through storytelling aligns perfectly with the mission we have here at Project Aviator. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Captain Paul Holte.
Thanks, dude. Is anybody else sore from pickleball? Let me rephrase that. Is anyone else born in the 1900s? Well, thank you for having me. My name is Paul Holte, like I said. I want to I'll be real quick, and then we can get back to the music and drinks. But I want to share about 3 different people who've kind of shaped my life and my aviation career. And the first was back when I was 16 years old. I was a student pilot at maybe 20 hours, and I took my parents' minivan to the Minneapolis airport. It was white with wood trim. Did anyone else have a minivan with a belt on it? So took the minivan to the Minneapolis airport, went through security because this was the 1900s and you could do that. And just started walking around and talking to different pilots I saw. And I got a lot of no's, and most of them didn't want to talk to a 16-year-old kid. But finally one guy said yes, and he was sitting at McDonald's. And so I sat down with him and talked for maybe 15 minutes. But just that 15-minute conversation was a huge impact on me, especially as a 16-year-old sitting at the airport, just talking to like a real pilot. Like, what is life like? Because this is before Instagram and YouTube and like what I do now on YouTube. Like, you can just click on one of my videos and see exactly what life looks like. But back then, you couldn't do that. And so I was very thankful to him for just lending me an ear for 15 minutes while he ate McDonald's. I wouldn't say he didn't become a mentor of mine, but that 15 minutes was very impactful. Further down the road, once I was in college, I was 19 years old. I had my very fresh commercial pilot certificate, and I was at a restaurant one night, and I met a guy named Neil, who I knew flew a corporate jet in the town I was going to college in. And I went up and talked to him and said, yeah, I'm a commercial pilot and going to school here. And he said, oh, well, sometimes I need people to sit in the right seat of the citation I fly. And so I got his phone number, and maybe a month or two later, I'd heard through the rumor mill that he was in need of a first officer for the next day. And so I called him up, and he's like, yeah, come on out. So 12 hours later, I was sitting in the right seat of a private jet as a 19-year-old college kid, which is, I don't know, if you paid for a private jet, the first officer was a 19-year-old kid. I don't know if I'd be super impressed, but I went on to fly with Neil throughout my college career, and I flew roughly 200 hours with him, and it really changed my path in aviation. He used to be an airline pilot, and now he's a corporate pilot, and so I was able to ask him, like, what's the difference between corporate pilot life and airline life? And he was able to kind of guide me through those decisions, but he also talked me through breakups with my girlfriends, and he lent me a car when I needed one. And after I graduated college and 9/11 happened, and he talked me through that. I was living in my parents' basement and got furloughed from the regional airline I worked for, and he kind of talked me through that. And even when I upgraded to captain at United, he was one of the first people to call and congratulate me. And even about a year and a half ago, okay, I try to get through this without crying. Ernie's heard the story before. Okay, I rehearsed this in the drive down here, and I didn't cry, but it's different when you're telling people. But he called to tell me he had just a couple weeks to live, and as I was trying to find the right words to say, just thank you for pouring into me. And like, literally, my career would not be the same if it hadn't been for him. And he's still just bouncing it back at me, like giving me encouragement, and literally from his deathbed, and it was very powerful. Okay, it gets better from here. So I got hired by Regional Airline, moved on, and when I was kind of ready to leave the regional airline world, I ran into a guy named Gary, and we became really good friends, and he worked for a cargo company, but I knew that he had worked for Continental Express before he worked for the cargo company now. But we were just friends. I wasn't friends with him because he could get me a job, or even I wasn't really looking at him as a mentor. He was more just a friend. But as the more and more we hung out, the more he would like help me with interview stuff and fine tune a resume and a application letter and interview questions, and ultimately when I was ready to leave the regional airline, I'd asked him like, hey, you don't know anyone at Continental, do you? Because Continental at the time, this is 2006, Continental at the time was hiring a lot of people, like all the airlines are now. And it was like one of the great places to go. And I just wanted to go somewhere. And he's like, yeah, I might know someone. So he called me back a week later, and he said, listen, hopefully there's no one here from United HR, because this is probably not okay. But he called me back. He's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to write a letter of recommendation I'm going to give it to my friend Eric. He's a 737 captain in Cleveland. He'll sign it, and he'll bring it to the chief pilot, and you'll get an interview. Great. So I called up Eric just to touch base before he, put his whole career on the line for some guy he doesn't know. And as we're talking, he says, "Oh yeah, Gary was a great guy. He was the chief pilot at Continental Express, and always treated everyone great. Like anyone he recommends is not a problem." I was like, "Wait, Gary was the chief pilot?" I was like, "Yeah, you didn't know that?" "No, I know. I've been friends with him for 4 years. I had no idea that he used to be the chief pilot at Continental Express." And so anyway, I went on obviously to get hired by Continental, and we merged with United. But I wouldn't be standing here today making YouTube videos or Instagram posts and hopefully encouraging people along the way if it hadn't been for Gary, if it hadn't been for Neil, and if it hadn't been for the Northwest pilot sitting at McDonald's. So if you take anything from this, if you ever run into someone, a 16-year-old kid at the airport who just wants to learn a little bit about flying, like, you have the power to literally change not only their aviation career, but the legacy of their family. Like my kids now, my daughter wants to fly. In the last 3 weeks, I've been on safari in Africa with my kids, and then a few days ago I was swimming with manta rays in Kona, Hawaii. And I wouldn't get to do that stuff if it hadn't been for all three of those people. And that is the power of a mentor. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Alrighty, again, I want to thank Paul. I just also want to point out, with his many, many followers, he actually volunteered to be here. Unfortunately, Project Aviator, we're small but mighty and have a very small budget. So again, thank you so much for volunteering your time, Paul. Let's give him another round of applause, everyone. If you want. Does anyone have a Q&A for Paul?
I do, yeah. Obviously what you do is pretty inspiring, right? In all your social media platforms, and that takes a lot of time, especially when you're at home. What was the moment for you that you wanted to kind of get into that space, right? Like, was there a moment for you that you were like, this would be a really cool opportunity? I know there's an avenue for it. People are going to want to see this. What was that like for you, deciding to go down that path?
Yeah, so I've always been kind of creative. Like, even back before YouTube was a thing, like I had a blog when blogs were big, and so I've always been a little bit creative. And I've always enjoyed video editing, and the reason I started my YouTube channel was to encourage other crew members to go out on their layovers, because I would be in Milan or Maui or Athens or Rome or wherever, and I'd see people literally stay in their hotel room for 24 hours and not like DoorDash food to their hotel, not leave, like not even go on a walk on the beach. Like, you don't have to go crazy and go for a 10-mile hike or whatever, but you could do something, or play pickleball. That's right. So that's why I started it, and that didn't do very well. So for 3 years, I was putting out videos that were not getting more than 30 views each, and I wrote a friend of mine who is he helps people navigate Instagram and YouTube and stuff. I told him that, I was about to quit YouTube, and he's like, "Do you ever think about a room like this room of 50 people, 50 people watching, sitting down and watching one of your videos with 50 people? That's a lot of people, and if you're sitting in the room with them, it's scary." And once he said that, I kind of got over okay, well, maybe I'm not impacting 1 million people, but I can impact a couple, and that's good. And then once I started including more behind the scenes pilot stuff, that's kind of when my YouTube channel took off a little bit. But the original intent was to just encourage employees, pilots and flight attendants mostly, when they're on a layover, just to go do something and see the world, because it's awesome. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
So of all the layovers you've been on, what would be your favorite and then definitely most memorable and why?
Continually, my favorite place to go would be Rome. It's pretty hard to have a bad time there. As far as most memorable layovers, There's, what's that? I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say? That's right. The most memorable layover I can tell you about? No. I don't know. Like, I remember being in Lisbon, Portugal one night, and just going out with the crew, and then we went to this restaurant that you have to have reservations for. There's no signage. You go in through an art museum, take the elevator up one level, and then there's a restaurant there. And you don't see it from the street. You just have to know where it is, and you have to have a reservation. And then you get there, and there's no menu. We showed up with 9 people or whatever, and there's there's no menu. The guy just starts bringing out wine and starters and mains and desserts, and you're just hanging out, and you're in this weird space in the middle of Portugal, but really just experiencing that kind of stuff with crew members. I mean, like, I've done a lot of fun things, like swim with sharks. I've jumped off cliffs in Switzerland and skydiving and all, like helicopters over London, and like all the I've done a lot of neat stuff. Went flying with Ernie one day. But really, like, experiencing that with crew members is one of the best things about the job, because you have these amazing experiences with people, and then you might never see them again, but you might become best friends, and I think that's pretty special. Yes, sir.
Who are better pilots, Southwest?
Let's say, I'll tell you this.
That and then rank them.
I make about 3 landings a month, and Ernie makes about 30.
Answer the question.
Southwest pilots are very proficient.